Welcome back to the second lecture on the concept, importance, elements of organizational change. We'll continue with our discussion from the earlier session. In this session, we are going to discuss on the characteristics of organizational change, the different types of change, management of change, importance of change, and advantages of change. So let us begin. So organizational change can be treated as vital. It is very, very important if the organization is to avoid stagnation. So if the organization wants to grow, it does not want to stagnate, so it is vital to bring in organizational change. We have to understand organizational change is a process, it is not an event. It is a continuous process as the external factors and the internal factors are continuously evolving. It is a normal and constant, so we have to accept change as the normal process in order to survive and sustain in the organizational operation. So, it is change is coming in fast and it is likely to increase further in the present competitive business scenario, and which is like gradually changing from nation to worldwide phenomena. So also change is directive in nature because it gradually takes place by the decisions taken at the top and the slopes down to lower level groups or subordinates. So first some decision is taken in the top level and then it comes down to the lower level work groups and subordinates for them to comply and accept. So, but again, if they are not involved in this decision making process, so they are not able to understand like what good it is going to do for them or for the organization. There could be differences of opinion and conflicts may arise. We need to understand that change is a very natural process, evolutionary or adaptive in nature, that it is a reaction to external circumstances and forces influencing for change. Also, it is an incremental in nature. It is a radical shift from current to new processes which may have happened all on a sudden. Also, it is interdependent on organizations' environment and culture, as human resources are the operating forces for change. So, you have to see, like we were talking repeatedly, also organizational environment is a major factor which affects the organization's functioning. And in order to answer to the demands of the environment, we have to formulate different strategies based on the internal strength that we have, based on the network that we have. And your response to the same environment could be different based on the different perception of the individual about its own strength and the nature of the network that they are having around it. So, change is inevitable in life of organization, which poses formidable challenges and heralds new opportunities. It will invariably impact the roles of management, the structure and operations of the organization. The concept of organizational change is closely linked with change management. So, here we will discuss a brief concept of change management. We will have very elaborate discussions on change management in the latter part of the lectures. So, change management is a discipline that guides us how to prepare, equip, and support individuals to successfully adopt change in order to drive organizational success and outcomes. So, it is a change management is a process of guiding people to understand how they can successfully adopt change very quickly so that they can drive the organization towards organizational success. So, change of whatever forms interface with three types of organizational components which constitute the corporate culture effectively. and these are being taken into consideration when you're talking of change management. So, like historical and political evolution of the company, the management and organization of the company, and the people who work for the company. Why these things are important? If you're talking of the historical and political evolution of the company, it talks of the original seed value, the culture that the organization is having, the value system, the belief system that the organization is having in terms of its very in-depth culture. Second is like how the processes in the organization is aligned with the expected performance of the organization. And third is people who are working for the company. So when we talk of change management, then we are maybe thinking of bringing changes at any each of these in levels or any one of these levels. Change management is the process, tools, and techniques to manage the people side of the change to achieve the required business outcome. So, whenever we are talking of change management, we are more or less focusing on the people side of the change because it actually it's like they're the entities which can show resistance to change. So it's very important that the change management process focuses on the people side of the change to achieve required business outcome. The implications of organizational change, though, we'll discuss them again, but here we'll discuss them in brief, like accommodating the growth need of the organization. So, as the project organization is growing more and more, and it's expanding, it takes in more project clients and production and work. So, while the previous structures were sufficient in keeping the organization going at that point of time, uh, may not be sufficient now, and because of this change in the like decisions or the aspirations for growth may require to bring in structural changes in the organization so that to accommodate the new workload. Identification and fixation of problems. So, as an organization continues to operate and the environment is continuously evolving, so mm, it could be found like mm, the earlier processes which were successful may not be working in the same way. So, you need to every time learn and relearn, find out new ways of solving the problem, because your environment is changing, evolving. So the demands are changing, and you need to also update yourself, like train yourself to effectively answer to the environmental demands. Keep in tune with new technology. So, another motivation for change in an organization is to keep oneself updated with the market trends and technology. Technology is changing at a very high speed, and if you're not able to keep up with it, if you're not aware of the recent technologies, maybe it is going to have a devastating effect on the organization's performance. Customers' choice are also very important. Customers' choice may have a more sophistication, or it has been shifted towards maybe more environmental friendly things. So, like how the customers' choice have shifted, so that organizational change is required to bring in over there is very important. Seize the new opportunity. So it is very important that you get the opportunity and try to work for it and get it. So, uh, if you are promoting a change in the organization, so it is beneficial to many, and it also brings in a new like it opens up a new phase of the organization. New income initiatives. A company takes a risk every time it introduces new product or service to the market. However, these changes are also some of the only ways to develop a new avenues for revenue generation. So every time you find a jerk, every time you find a block, so it's a human nature that you're trying to find out an alternative way so that that block does not act over there. In that way, so because you are changing yourself, because you are trying to think something in a different way, as a result, what happens, you are also discovering something, you're bringing in new methodologies to solve the problem. So, and try this, you're trying to think differently in different ways, and bringing in new concepts also, and making life easy for the organization and its people. With this, we can understand like the organization cannot and should not remain constant over time. Even if the management does not want to change, external pressure forces it to change. So, if there is external pressures, so it will be forced to change. You just cannot tell, like, I'm not going to change. The organization does not want to change because change is always there, and only thing, we have to accept the change, we have to accept the challenge, prepare ourselves to answer to the challenges properly, so that we also grow. As a process of this learning, we also grow, become more strong in understanding. Next time if these things coming, then we are strong enough to give our answers to it.
Types of organizational change.
Organization wide change. Organization wide change is a large scale transformation that affects the overall structure of the company. Basically, a step towards changing the nature of the company. Transformational change. It is important for companies to constantly examine the organization's underlying strategies. A company must be in touch with the environments around them. Personal change. Personal change is when a company undergoes mass hiring or layoffs. The necessities it necessitates a shift in the company's culture and processes. Unplanned change. So here what happens, like an organization through its various, though it has various data analysis techniques to predict the future and their planned strategies, so in number of cases it may go for unplanned changes, sometimes which are even more drastic than the planned ones. Remedial change. Remedial changes are brought about when responding to general sense of deficiency or poor performance levels tend to drop. So, methods of constructive organizational change. There are some methods to make changes in the organization constructive, which are as follows. First is decreasing negativity. Negativity is more powerful than positivity, it has a greater impact. So, the effects of positivity are more subtle and therefore have to be more frequent in compared to negativity. Leadership. It is essential that leaders and managers have a basic understanding of the techniques and have the necessary skills for reducing negativity and increasing positivity. Utilization of strength in workplace. It can also be a tactical approach day by day. The employee or the work groups with more strength should be utilized for addressing the weaknesses in the workplace. Connection with others. The ability to share success and positive experience is a multiplier versus simply experiencing a positive experience in isolation. It is important to connect oneself with others. Developing new skills are also very important. Managers and leaders have a unique opportunity, particularly in the current economic environment, to remind team members that work is a privilege and learning new skills is an even greater privilege. Expectancy in the workplaces. Problems and challenges in the workplace can either be presented as issues of great concern with seriously negative implications or positioned as challenges that can be exciting and can produce learning and growth. Same issue, but the different lens and a completely different expectation from employees. This is very important. As we were discussing at the start of the session, there could be crisis at each of the growth stages of the organization. How you see the crisis, how you respond to it, what are the steps that you take in responding to it depends a lot on your attitude, your vision, and the values that you are having, and that will again define the policies and practices that you take to like answer to these changes and implement it. So, for the same problem at hand, the approaches of the two organizations could be different, and the staffing processes taken, the coordination taken, maybe the communication taken, from where to go for recruitment and selection, whether to go for it or not. All these things are going to vary based on the perspective that the people take towards the challenges and how they are going to answer to it based on the belief in their self strength, like whether do they believe in their self efficacy or not. This we are going to discuss in details in the upcoming sessions on organizational change. What are the advantages of organizational change? The first advantage is that it is coping up with trends. Change can assist a business to keep up with the industry trends, making it more appealing to promising consumers as well as maintaining present consumers. Creating new opportunities. The capability to clasp change can assist employees in a business by developing new opportunities. For instance, a worker who actively applies himself or herself to learning the new office technology can also train others who are more uncertain. Stimulating innovations. Businesses that are capable at handling or even embracing change can promote an environment that stimulates innovation. Employees will be more willing to think in a more creative manner if their ideas are acknowledged by a manager or the business owner. Motivation needs to be increased. If the leader takes the time to do the research and promote a changed business plan, employees will be very likely to get excited for achieving the company's future goals. This kind of action will show them that those in change are open to new ideas and are willing to adapt to the needs of the market for optimum success in their company. So, if your views as an employee are valued, you feel motivated. In the last session, we were discussing about promotive organizational voices. These are voices that you promote that for like for the betterment of the organization, suggestions that you give for the betterment of the organizations, where sometimes you like the criticize of the present processes also. Now, if the organization is open enough to hear to these voices of the employees, then they feel motivated because they feel like the due worth is given to them and they are also valued as important contributors to the organization's growth. New areas of business are found. This also creates an opportunity for developing plans that incorporate certain skills from certain people who have the ability to focus solely on that particular project through its completion. So, knowing what skills are needed for a project and who is the best fit will ultimately lead to more efficient progress. So, if you can place right people to the right job who can take care of the ongoing business or some specific part of the business, and like if you understand they are capable enough to do these things, you delegate your responsibilities towards them, then what happens, like you can try to focus on a different areas of business or expand your business also. So here you'll see a connect between organizational change, its vision, its performance management, and also the staffing and the recruitment and selection processes. So, if you are able to visualize what defines your performance and what are the kinds of people required for it, then through this staffing and recruitment and selection process, you can place the correct kind of person over there whom you can trust with the development, and you can broaden your horizon to look into new business opportunities. Acquiring new skills. Employees are able to acquire new skills, seek new opportunities, and exercise their creativity in ways that eventually focus on the organization through extra ideas and increased commitment. So, what happens, like if you should be focused on the organization's growth and you are able to align your performance with the organization's performance, so you can understand like how to nurture your creativity, so how your ideas are going to add value to the organization, and so what are the skills you need to work on and what are the opportunities that you need to seek to, so that it increases your effective commitment to the organization. You acquire new skills which helps you to contribute in a better way to the organization's purpose. Challenges, like sometimes if you can anticipate the challenges, if when the like creating an adaptive plan, future challenges should and will likely to be discussed. So if you are trying to create a plan, adaptive plan, then obviously while discussing about it, you need to understand what would be the upcoming challenges that you are going to face and how to address to those challenges. If you can chalk out what are the hurdles that you need to overcome, then the leaders can allow their company to more easily go for transition to the through the process, which helps them to take steps which they know, like which will help them to answer to the question to what the organization expects from them. So, these are the references that we have dealt with. In the current lecture session, we have just covered the basic concepts, components, and characteristics, importance and levels, advantages of organizational change. So, which we expect like it will be helpful for all the learners to have some basic knowledge and capabilities on these issues of change and change management. So, in the next part of the lecture session, we will discuss on the forces of organizational change and related issues. Stay tuned.